Think you know the Brooks Ghost? Think again. Introducing the all-new, better-than-ever Ghost 16. Now with nitrogen-infused cushioning for lightweight, supreme softness that feels good every step, every street, every single day. So go ahead, take your daily joyride in the all-new nitrogen-infused Ghost 16. It'll turn your everyday miles into everyday endorphins. Let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I hope to open the conversation about working parents a bit. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier, to find out how they balance being a dad with a successful career. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Brett the Hitman Hart.
This is Dina Parisi, 2015 IHRA Pro Mod World Champion.
Hi, I'm Fiona Forbes.
Hi, this is Jody Emery of Cannabis Culture and Pot TV.
Hey, I'm drummer Matt Chamberlain.
Hello, this is Melissa Etheridge.
Hi, this is Taylor Leanne Chandler, Michael Phelps' ex-girlfriend.
Hey, it's Rex Brown.
Seaball in the house, and you are listening to the Toddcast here on CKDJ, the hits of your life.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, providing complete financing and mortgage services for residential and small commercial businesses. Visit them at citywidemortgage.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
Mixed martial arts, MMA, has grown exponentially in popularity over the last couple of decades. So much so that even if you're not a fan and you don't watch the fights, MMA is a household name. It's known worldwide. It's global. And the audience who watch, super diverse. I think some of the appeal is the unpredictability of it all. Like, you think that you know who's going to win the fight. Maybe it's a champ defending the belt for the 5th time or whatever it is, and everything points to the challenger getting his ass kicked. Yet, a new champion is crowned and you're left stunned by the outcome. It's like watching a chess match unfold, and both fighters are using their disciplines and trying to gain the advantage. Well, this week, based out of Los Angeles, from the #1 most viewed MMA interview show, MMA Power Hour, the host Colin Crandall is a guest.
So I've been doing MMA Power Hour for about 7 years. We did it as a video podcast for 7 years, and then for this year mostly we've been doing it. I've been doing it myself as a Twitter Spaces audio podcast, but I am doing a new podcast that's a video podcast every week now with an MMA journalist from London, and that's called MMA from London to LA. And we're airing on the Hannibal TV, which has almost 400,000 subscribers. That's one of the bigger combat sports channels on YouTube in Canada, and doing various other interviews as well. I just did a real good interview myself without any label for any show on it, but it was just a Colin Crandall interview with Factory X head coach Mark Montoya, and we're going to keep throwing that stuff out there as well. So I'm still in action, still very focused, and a lot of big stuff coming up in store for everybody here. And but MMA Power Hour we did as a video podcast for 6 years, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of content on that show, and also covering live events as I'm credentialed with the UFC, Bellator, PFL, and One Championship.
Joining MMA Power Hour host Colin Crandall, she is the winner of Bravo TV's Dancing Queens. Sabrina Strasser is a guest.
So it started when I was about 29 years old. I lived alone and I was watching Dancing with the Stars, and I just, was bored after work. And I said, I'm going to enroll in once a week at a local studio. And I took lessons once a week after work, social. And then one thing led to another. And this teacher said, you seem to be grabbing this quickly. Let's give you to the next teacher who can take you a little bit further. And it kind of snowballed into this addiction. And if anybody dances, once you start, it's really hard to stop. And then I'm 46 and I'm still really addicted to the high you get.
Yeah. So 29 seems pretty late to start doing that. So what did you want to do, like in high school and stuff? Like what was your career desire then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I majored in mass communications and French because I was born in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And I studied after university. I went to broadcast journalism school. I graduated from there. Then, I got pregnant. So I'm like, okay, nobody wants a pregnant reporter. So I kind of raised my kids. And while I was raising my kids, I said, okay, I'm just going to take up dancing for fun because I'm home. And then that's what became my career. Oh. And throughout all that, I did my real estate license. I got my spin instructor license. Like I did all these little side things that, okay, maybe I'll do real estate. Maybe I just couldn't find a passion that I really wanted to pursue other than dancing. And then when COVID hit and dancing was kind of put on a halt, there were no competitions. I started my own business called Sabby Chic. And that's what I'm really working on now. So that is where I've honed in. I have my own business. I have my dance career and I have my family. And that's really where my head's at.
So we have the winner of Dancing Queens, the host of the most viewed MMA interview show, and you'll hear from this week's musical guest in just a second, the bassist of arguably one of Canada's best rock bands. As mentioned, my name is Todd Hancock. Thank you for being there. Appreciate that. It means a lot. Excited to unveil yet another Toddcast podcast. And coming up shortly in Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, Vancouver Whitecaps president Bob Lenarduzzi sharing some of his favorite career highlights. That is powered by our friends at FKP MMA. Learn self-defense and build your self-esteem. Learn to protect yourself. Get fit doing it as well. My kid Levi is coming up on 2 years going a couple times a week and loves it. Find out more about Vancouver's #1 training destination through fkpmma.com. First, our first guest of 3 is mentioned this week's musical guest, Danko Jones bassist JC. Over the years, we've had Danko Jones on a few times, so this time we switched it up and grabbed one of his bandmates. As a fan of the band, who have been around since 1996, really? There's always room for these guys. And interesting to note that they originally had no plans to release music, no plans to release albums. Instead, they wanted to be known for their live shows and kind of get the word spread out through word of mouth. And we did talk to JC about that in the full conversation. Eventually, the band, of course, would go on to release music, lots of music. Their self-titled debut, their EP came out in 1998. The next year, they released My Love Is Bold, the EP. It got nominated for a Juno Award in 2000 for Best Alternative Album, and by then they're off to the races. The idea of not releasing music is well behind them. Great to talk with JC. It had been probably close to, 10 years at least, maybe 12 years since the last time. Listen to him talking about his first musical memory.
I just remember my parents always having a turntable and just playing music. I just remember... To be honest, it was the Yellow Submarine, because that song was always on. So I thought that was, as a kid, you're like, oh, that's funny. It said Yellow Submarine. But then I'm like, oh, okay, the Beatles are great. So you kind of grew up with that. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when what happened to John Lennon, where I was. And I'm like, okay, so just all these little musical things throughout life. And then, yeah.
It's crazy, right? When you think about those key moments like Lennon being shot, how that impacted your life, it still impacts lives. His death left an unending void, having silenced a true musical icon who had a vision for, of course, peace worldwide. And to hear JC's memories of that event and how it touched him, like his band, Danko Jones, has done for many as well. Maybe not quite like the Beatles, but then again, not many bands could say that anyway. Think of the impression JC and his bandmates have made on others in the rock world, revered by those who've come in contact with them. You've seen them on tour with the likes of Nickelback, the Rolling Stones, Motorhead, Sepultura, Guns N' Roses, some of rock's truly elites, and no doubt holding their own. If you've never seen Danko Jones live, they really need to be on your must-see list. I think we talked to JC for close to a half hour. You can hear it right now at our iTunes and Spotify, SoundCloud, Megaphone accounts. You can see it at our YouTube channel, all at Toddcast Podcast. I think we got to be damn near 1,000 subscribers by now. Haven't checked that in a minute. Covered a lot of ground with JC, as we tend to do, reading and collecting comic books. We talked about Pink Floyd and drugs. GNR and Duff McKagan came up, growing up and playing music in Italy.
I started playing when I was like a teenager. And I mean, when I was a kid, it's like it was every band that you can think of that I was just listening to. I grew up in southern Italy, so I was listening to a lot of like Italian hardcore bands, and then, you know, stuff from like a lot of Iron Maiden, and, you know, then Beastie Boys came. So I was kind of all over the place. And there was even, you know, I was more into like the punk rock side of things. So I think that kind of rubbed off on a lot of the, how we kind of carry ourselves as a band in the business and in our approach.
It's cool to hear JC talking about his time in Italy as a teenager, hey? And think about all those years later, his band is, of course, touring Europe, where their fan base might be their biggest. I mean, they play over there big, big festivals, Rock am Ring in Germany, Download, Leeds and Reading in England, Hellfest in France. But great to get into all sorts of things with JC as well, talking sports, soccer and golf and tennis and running marathons. The shows that he's been binge watching, he recommends you dive into Prescription. We talked about tour life and the COVID era.
I still get nervous. I got to be honest with you. I still get nervous every time I play. So
do you really?
I think that's the thing. I think once you lose that, or at least in my head, if I lose that, then I'm going to stop doing it. Because there's part of me that kind of goes, oh, fuck.
Just nervous energy, like you're excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I love it still. Yeah. So I think that's kind of when you lose that, the edges might be gone, and then you're like, all right. Because you see so many people who tour, and a lot of them, you know, they might be just doing it. Just going through the motions. Going through the motions. And, you know, it's funny, like before the pandemic, we played a show in this place in Huntington Beach in California at this small pub. We ended up playing this really small pub, no dressing room, no backstage area. It was just like, you know, shared toilet. And I'm like, oh man, this place is kind of a dump. But the show was great. There's like 80 people. I was sitting out in the van with Danko going, oh man, can you believe we're playing this place? And then the pandemic came, and after the first month of the pandemic, I go, I would play 100 of those nights now. So you just really have to appreciate, like, it's not that I didn't appreciate it that night playing that show, but there's something about that night. I just remember so vividly, because I'm like, okay, well, the last show I played was that one.
Isn't it incredible to hear from such a well-known, well-established musician, and the fact that he still gets nervous playing live? Wow. Though here's a band that's had their fair share of accolades as well, whether it's the killer tours we've already mentioned, but the award nominations, the international hit songs, you've heard their music in video games, and it kind of makes JC an ideal person to talk about creativity. Well, he shared some stories about touring in Europe. Iron Maiden and punk rock came up. The drummers who have played in his band did as well. And he shared career highlights too.
The gig in Huntington Beach, man, you just got to make sure you love those moments. The one I was telling you about, like, you know, the last one you do where you just never know. It's every day what you do something. You just got to, you know, you're not working towards something. You are existing in it. Like, you know, it's not, and for me, this is not a hobby or a pastime. This is my life, and I treat it accordingly. And, you know, you always have to be kind and gracious to everybody around you. And that's, you know, that's the boomerang in the universe. It'll come back.
Red Truck Beer. Nothing delivers like a red truck. Official beer of the Toddcast podcast.
Trending won't be far. me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
Canadian soccer legend Bob Lenarduzzi was a guest early on in the life of this podcast. You'll know Lenarduzzi as a former star in the North American Sports League and Canadian International. Started playing professionally at the age of 15, playing in the English Football League, and from there, he joined the Vancouver Whitecaps in '74 in the team's first season. He's coached the Canadian national and Olympic soccer teams. He's a member of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, was voted one of the top 30 players of the century, and is currently club liaison for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And stop me if you've heard this before, Bob talked about his favorite career highlights.
There are a few, and there is one that perhaps doesn't have the wow factor that of the occasions that you've just mentioned, but it was actually a semifinal game in 1979 out at the old Empire Stadium against the LA Aztecs, and at that time Johan Cruyff was playing for the Aztecs, and we had a sold-out stadium of 32,000, and because we had sold it out, it was live on local television as well. And I can remember walking out onto the pitch for that game, and the atmosphere in the building was to the point where I actually had goosebumps, and when I repeat that scene, I actually still get goosebumps. And it was a match that we needed to win in order to force a third game and go on to play against the New York Cosmos in the semifinal. And we were able to do that, and I vividly recall the 32,000 still sat in their seats when we were well into the changing room and were looking forward to our semifinal appearance against the Cosmos, and remembering the crowd chanting white caps back and forth for a long while after the final whistle went. So that's a memory that is still very vivid in my mind.
Stop Me If You've Heard This Before on the Toddcast podcast is powered by FKP MMA, Vancouver's #1 training destination at fkpmma.com. And now, highlighting our next Blue Light Sessions, powered in part by Canadian Club Whiskey. Meet your new cold one. We serve Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktails at all of our live shows. Visit canadianclub.com today.
Silence! On the shipwreck, there wasn't much skin left to cover my bones. I feel the eyes of the beachhead watch me try to put some air in my lungs. And I heard the siren song in the desert, but I got up to run. The smile I'm trying to disengage.
And just a pummeling song. The band is Arlo Wells and Siren. Excited to have them doing a show with us in early January. If you've yet to hear about this, Friday, January 12th at the Blue Light Studio. It's the next Toddcast podcast, Blue Light Sessions, Arlo Wells, and the Kodiak. I'm going to play something from the Kodiak in just a little bit. Super fun nights. We cap these nights at 60 people, so it's intimate. I interview the band for maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of their 45-minute set. You can ask questions of the band as well, so it's interactive. We film the nights, make these cool videos for the bands as well, which you can see at Blue Light Studios' YouTube channel. Just $20 right now through eventbrite.ca. $20 through eventbrite.ca. It's a steal of a deal. $25 if you want to wait and gamble at the door. Doors are at 7 o'clock. Showtime's at 8. I played you a new song for the Vitos called Wedding Crashers. And if you go to their Facebook page, they've just posted a brand new Christmas song as well. I was talking, put the bug into those guys' ear. Hey, maybe something with the podcast in 2024. And the answer was, hell yes, let us know when. So that might be happening. Coming up in just a few minutes, listen to this, Hailstorm singer Lizzie Hale talking about meeting your heroes. And you know how sometimes people would say, like, don't meet your heroes? Well, you're going to love what Lizzie has to say about that. That is powered by 6-year sponsor Tedco RV Supplies out in Langley. Absolutely love these guys. RV service and repairs, ICBC accredited. You can find them, of course, through TedcoRVSupplies.com, their website, but they're also on Facebook, Twitter as well, through Tedco RV Supplies. First, the second of 3 Toddcast guests this week, our sporting guest, MMA Power Hour host Colin Crandall. That's powered by Hand Over Hand Textiles in Vancouver. Naturally dyed goods for your home and your body. Bandanas and socks, dishcloths, shirts, scarves, pillowcases. You're going to love their work. It's all top notch. They only use pure plant extracts, natural fibers. In fact, it's good for Mother Earth. Gets the thumbs up. Locally owned, locally operated. Find them through handoverhandtextiles.com. They are also on Instagram. If you trace the roots of MMA, it will take you far back to ancient Greece and China. While the Gracie family pioneered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the 20th century, as a big fan of the sport, I'm always trying to get on fighters and coaches. We had on Bruce Buffer, the ring announcer. We've had on some Octagon girls. And this week, as mentioned, MMA Power Hour host Colin Crandall. MMA news, event coverage from around the globe. They are the #1 most viewed MMA interview show. And of course, we talked to Colin about all things fight, touching on UFC's beginning, going back to 1993. And do you think it could have survived continuing with the rules that they had at launch?
Absolutely. That's a good question. And you're pretty close to exactly what the case was. There was groin shots were allowed, actually. You could punch and kick someone in the groin. You couldn't do is there's no eye gouging and there was no fish hooking where if you're wrestling with someone, exactly. You can't do that.
But you could stomp on somebody's head.
Yeah, you could stomp on someone's head. There were soccer kicks, knees to the ground.
Yeah.
You could do 12 to 6 elbows in the back of someone's head. It was pretty dangerous. Hair pulling was legal. The one thing that no one did as a kind of a gentleman's thing, no one was going to be biting anyone, although I think in a couple cases some guys did. But so it was nearly anything goes. No, I don't think that would have lasted for a couple reasons because there was a big protest against it. The late Senator John McCain kind of made it a project of his to convince any pay-per-view outlets to not carry the UFC. And so a lot of people don't know this, but for the first 4 years of the sport, 4 or 5 years from 93 to 97 or 98, everyone could get it on pay-per-view. And then for about 3 years, the only people that could see the events were DirecTV and Dish, at least in the United States. And I used to go over to an ex-girlfriend's place and treat her to dinner and watch the fights on her DirecTV or Dish or whatever it was. And never forget, I remember I came back one night at late in that night, early in the morning, and there was like a torrential rain, and I went under a bridge, and it seemed like 1,000 gallons of water came down on my car, and I couldn't see anything, and I was like, oh man, they gotta fix something so I'm not driving out here for the fights and almost getting killed on the way back, but so because of McCain and other people protesting it and calling it barbaric and human cockfighting, no athletic commissions were willing to let the UFC go there, especially the big ones in Vegas and in Atlantic City. And I mean, it could have kept going on if the guys who ran it were independently wealthy and didn't mind not making any money or losing money. But hardly anyone wants to do that, especially guys that are wealthy. You couldn't see Elon Musk saying, "Let me just do some stuff for shits and giggles where I'm bleeding out money." You just don't do it. Yeah. So it wouldn't have gone on, I think, because of the backlash. And also, it was a very different sport. And I think it had kind of a different mindset. Like, I'm not saying some of our guys today wouldn't have participated, because I think a lot would, but some wouldn't. I think, the fact that, and headbutting was legal too, and with headbutting, with the fact that you could punch someone in the groin and you could pull hair and you could stomp on them in the ground and soccer kick, I think a bunch of guys probably would not have agreed to get into that. And I think that probably most women would not have agreed to get into that. So it would have been really different. It would have been just the bravest of the brave, essentially, or craziest of the crazy, or both.
I mean, when you think about it, it really was a spectacle. When the UFC first launched, it was one of those eye-opening, jaw-dropping sports on TV. Like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm watching this. The full talk with Colin is, I think, about 45 minutes long. You can hear it on our social media platforms all over everywhere, all at Toddcast Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Megaphone, SoundCloud. You can see all interviews as well at our YouTube channel. And I think when you really look at MMA, it's the explosive mixture of skill and athleticism that really captivates audiences worldwide. And like normal, we went deeper than what our guests are known for, talking to Colin about binge watching crime documentaries. His family came up. So did social media and marketing, seeing Kiss and Cheap Trick in concert. His thoughts on MMA fighters taking on boxers in the squared circle.
Well, so McGregor Mayweather, it's going back about 5 years, I think, right about now, about 5 years, like 4.5, 5, yeah. And that I thought was very interesting. I thought that McGregor didn't have much of a chance just because of the fact that his boxing and his timing was amazing for MMA, but it was against MMA fighters. And back then, we didn't even have as many good strikers in MMA as we have now. The distance is also different in MMA because you're concerned about the takedown and other things. And he was a very, very exciting kind of cutting edge fighter, a striker in MMA with his movement. But I kind of realized it wasn't going to 100% translate to boxing, especially against the best in the world at the time. I'm not giving Floyd that as any sort of best ever, but
almost best ever, you could argue.
He's one of them, but definitely for the last decade up there, and perhaps the best, probably in the last decade. So I didn't think McGregor was do as well as he did, but there's also some question that Floyd may have been carrying him because Floyd was super defensive for those early rounds. But I will say this, McGregor is a little bit of a bigger man than Floyd. He had the reach on him. He was naturally heavier, and he was 10 years younger, or even 12 years younger, if I recall. And so it's hard to say as far as what Floyd was doing as far as really trying his best. There's some talk that it ended in the 9th round, and it did because Floyd had millions of dollars bet through relatives and friends that it would end in the 9th round. I hope that's not the case, because that'd be pretty messed up, as well as possibly illegal. Although I think in boxing, you can bet on yourself. You just can't bet against yourself. MMA now, you're not allowed, or at least in the UFC, you're not allowed to make any wager on or against yourself if you're an active fighter. So I don't know, but I do think that the way it looked, McGregor was throwing. He was doing a lot of throwing. He landed a bit. He never had Floyd in trouble, but he was touching him a lot more than we thought. And it was an exciting fight, right? And I think it got some more respect for MMA. And I think that 5 years later, this Ngannou fight really kind of picked up where that left off, because there was no question that Floyd stopped McGregor, and McGregor never had him hurt, although he touched him, but it's a little bit debatable whether that was at Floyd's discretion, or or not, whether McGregor was really doing that well. In this situation, there's no question, and many people, including myself, felt, and I'll put it out here, felt that Ngannou won that fight. Yes, right. It was close. It was a very close fight. I've taken polls and have had several hundred people respond, and out of a 75-25 following that I have, with 75% being MMA and boxing fans and 25 pretty much being exclusively boxing fans, about 75% of them did feel Ngannou won. However, I'm looking at people that have exclusively boxing fans, and it's more than 50% of them that feel that Fury won. But it was really close. But either way, I think that Francis really got some more respect for the MMA community. I really think he really finished where McGregor started. And now boxing fans really can no longer assume that their best is going to beat our MMA world best, even in the sport of boxing. And I think that shocked a lot of people, especially the odds were like 10-1 in that fight. And Fury never had Ngannou in trouble once. No. And the one knockdown was from Ngannou. So
it almost seems like Ngannou could just go into the ring with Joshua, or could
with Joshua, with Usyk, with Wilder,
any of those guys.
And I will say this: some people are saying that it was a shorter notice setup. They talked about it; it was on, then it was off, then it was back on. Some people said Fury looked even more fleshy than he usually looked, and he didn't train at all. This, that, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. If Fury was that much better than Ngannou, as most people thought, that stuff wouldn't have mattered dramatically. I'm not saying it doesn't matter or didn't. But if Fury was a 100 times better than Ngannou in a boxing ring, like most boxing fans were saying, it wouldn't have turned out that way, whether he trained or not. So to me, if Fury wants to come back and say, all right, you know what, I didn't take it seriously, now I'm going to take it darn seriously. We're going to schedule this for 3 or 4 months out, and I'm going to come back and show off Ngannou what a real boxer looks like, then let's see. But to me, like I said, if Ngannou was that inferior in a boxing ring, then Fury didn't really need to be that focused and could have smoked him, and he didn't. So I think that now it doesn't mean that we're going to keep on producing MMA fighters that can compete against the very best in boxing. This is kind of a particular instance with an amazingly athletic individual like Francis Ngannou. One of the things I said going into that fight was that Francis has a really good chin. People are forgetting about that. There haven't been instances of people rocking Francis Ngannou. He's really gotten beaten by wrestling in MMA. And one of the things I said is that he will be in there against a man who'll probably be 25 pounds heavier than him. I forget what their exact weights were, but it's maybe 25, 30-pound difference. But it'll be a man who's 4 inches taller, or 3 inches. They had it officially listed as 5. Looked more like 3-inch difference to me. But he'd be in there with a man with a little bit of a longer reach, a much better boxing pedigree, and like 30 extra pounds. And I said going into that fight, if Francis shows he can take the punches, then Tyson Fury better be careful. And he showed that right away. The punches were like, Francis literally was like, come on, and I think when Tyson Fury saw that, he was like, oh crap, this is a really fit, big, strong, rugged MMA guy in here. And maybe I'm just a little bit of trouble here. And but he did the MMA community proud. I love that fight. And I think he's people are saying though that someone that utilizes speed and aggressiveness more like an Alexander Usyk might be a tougher ask for Francis, and he might be, but Francis is down. Francis is down, and he is amazing. And I think that he definitely made the MMA community proud. He made a lot of us happy. We weren't so happy that he didn't pay off at the betting window, but that wasn't his fault. And he even said he was expecting that they weren't going to give the decision to him, which shows his knowledge about how unfortunately boxing and MMA judging can be, because it shouldn't be that someone doesn't want to give you something, but sometimes it seems like that's in the back of some of these judges' minds, which is dismaying, to say the least.
I mean, he's not wrong. You just got to watch highlights of the Ngannou Fury match. It's pretty obvious. But what are they going to do? Let some MMA fighter beat the world's heavyweight champ? If you've seen the day after photos that went around online, Fury looks worked. Ngannou didn't look like he even took a punch. We got into it with a lot of stuff with Colin, talking about fame, Hendrix, Clapton, Elvis Presley. He talked about how he likes comedies, and he has a spotlight in the McGregor documentary that's on Netflix.
As far as in MMA podcasting, which is my passion, which is what we're talking about, I would really have to say going to that press conference where I was on camera for on and off camera for about 3 minutes, where I was interviewing Conor McGregor and Cowboy Cerrone before their fight. They actually put about 10 or 15 seconds of that on the Netflix documentary, McGregor Forever. And funny enough, when they went to commercial, they went with me on the screen to commercial one of those times, wearing my sports jacket and holding the UFC microphone as I was asking the questions to Conor and Cowboy. And that was a really good feeling. I had a friend of mine there as my videographer, which is why I got I have like extra footage of that. But I had only been covering things in media for maybe 3 or 4 years at that point. And or I think like 3. And it was before the pandemic, so we were all packed in there like sardines about 20 feet away from the stage that Conor and Cowboy were on. And I know I had asked some good questions in previous press conferences, and I really hadn't thought about what I was going to ask. But if you look at the post-fight press conference, Dana looked right at me and said, "Okay, how about you? You got a question there?" And he was looking and pointing right at me because I had come through, and I think a couple previous events with really good questions at the post-fight presser, and this was like a pre-fight presser. But I looked at him like, crap, what am I going to say? No. And I thought of it. I was between a couple different questions. And I said, yeah, thank you, Dana. And I said, for Conor, how do you think this fight would have gone? Something like if it was when you guys first had words a few years back. And then he said something like, and I think I even had more detail than that. He said, well, I think the press conference would have been different for sure. And then he laughed and he said, but I think the fight would have probably gone on the same. And then I had several more questions, and it was really important to me to do really well on a big stage. There was so much media there. There was a ton. It was the most media I've ever seen at a UFC event. It was like triple the amount of media that's usually at UFC events. And I just was like, man, I just want to kill this because I want to let people know that I know my stuff and that I'm going to come through with good questions that are interesting, that make Conor and Cowboy think, and that make the press conference even more interesting. And I felt really good for having come through and having that footage and then having it be on the Netflix Conor McGregor Forever documentary.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
place for me to be. Drag me by the hand and take me to the bad place. Hold my hand, let me rest in the pit that waits for me. Take me to the bad place. Hold my hand, let me rest in the pit that waits. People in this place always get what they want, and they'll find a better way to break your heart. I've been needing someone to know, and it's you. Yeah, it's gotta be you. In this place always get what they want, and they'll find a better way to break your heart. I've been needing someone to know, and it's you. Yeah, it's gotta be you.
And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
Hailstorm is one of the most successful rock bands of the last decade. Grammy winners, female-fronted, touring juggernauts, and the last time that their singer, Lizzie Hale, was a guest, we talked about family and growing up in Pennsylvania, the music that was in their house as a kid growing up, what she remembers about her first concert, which shows she was binge-watching at the time, and Lizzie talked about geeking out meeting her heroes. Listen to this.
Oh, absolutely. Really, all of my idols. Let's see. First one really was Tom Kiefer from Cinderella, the first time that we met. I had to talk to him on the phone before we met, which was even more nerve-wracking.
Right. And how cool is it that he's still doing stuff too, right? Like, how cool is that?
Oh, dude, yeah. He's still bringing the house down. His voice sounds great.
He's awesome.
But yeah, the first time we ever talked, I didn't know he knew who I was, and we were planning on playing a fair gig together, like down the road, and so I was kind of like nervous about that, but I'm like, oh, we have months to go. And apparently his guitar player and my guitar player were in cahoots because they had met a guitar player at Guitar Center, and then he ends up giving Tom Kiefer my number. And so we're in Alaska, of all places, playing a show, and my guitar player comes up. He's like, "Yeah, Tom Kiefer's going to call you in 5 minutes, so just in case you got to
okay,
prepare yourself." I'm like,
Right.
What? Excuse me. So long story short, like now we're really good friends. We I hang out with him and his wife and his kid and all that stuff. We all live in Nashville. But, man, stepping on stage with that guy, he's the only one that can out-stare me in a staring contest on stage. It was just incredible because, like, you're just like, okay, this is the guy that, like, this is the reason I sing the way I do. This is the reason I play guitar now, you know? This is crazy. So between Tom and then when I met Joan Jett, I was a little at a loss for words. I had a facepalm moment because I'm like, all right, I'm just going to, like, I'm cool, right? I can hang out. So I'm hanging out. And all I could think to say to her, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, it's really hot out. Like, I'm talking about the weather. I'm like, what? What am I doing? So luckily later on, you know, after we broke the ice, everything was cool. But like that was like the first thing I say to her. I'm like, what am I doing?
Love it.
But she watched our set and it was awesome.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies.
And absolute riff monsters. The band is Dead Quiet, and a great song for them called Atone Deaf. And what you're now a couple Fridays away from seeing them in Vancouver on Friday, December 8th. They are playing the Rickshaw Theatre with Ancients. That's going to be a great night. Ancients, Dead Quiet, Scalding, and 1982. You can pick up tickets through orangetickets.ca. Orangetickets.ca. That's going to be a great night, as will our show with the Kodiak. You heard their excellent song called True North. And again, in early January, they're playing a podcast show at Blue Light Studio, East Vancouver. Friday, January 12th, it's the Kodiak and Arlo Wells. Interactive interviews, performances, just $20 right now through eventbrite.ca. That's eventbrite.ca. Search out Toddcast Podcast. You can't miss our shows. Speaking of that live scene, the live music, find a list of not only our shows, but other shows we think you should check out through the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If you're playing a show or you're going to one, if it's indie, let us know about it. We'll post it up at the website, get you some free advertising that way, maybe even play a song in the podcast and get some love to the show that way as well. Okay? Our final guest of this episode 318 is Bravo TV's Dancing Queens winner, Sabrina Strasser, this week's entertainment guest, powered by Sacred Meds, Canada's best craft cannabis and psilocybin dispensary. You know that they ship anywhere in Canada, right? So if you're listening on the East Coast, hello, how are you? Thanks for being there. You can get oils and hash and all kinds of edibles, peyote, vapes, lollipops, shatter, and more. Again, it will be shipped to you anywhere in Canada. No, they can't ship to the States, unfortunately. At registry, mention that you heard about them through this podcast. It will instantly upgrade your profile at their website, sacredmeds.com. So if you're looking on Bravo TV for the synopsis of the show Dancing Queens, passion and glamour meet the rigorous demands of the ballroom dance competition world as a group of dancer friends juggle the realities of their personal lives with their dedication to dance. In the end, all is fair in war and ballroom. Well, reality TV gives you, of course, a reason to watch. Diverse narratives and relatable moments. It's the drama, right? The unexpected twists. Compelling and entertaining. An open Latin pro-am dancer, mom of two, the owner of Sabi Chic, a dancewear accessories brand, Sabrina won Bravo TV's Dancing Queens Season 1.
Oh, it was pretty amazing. First of all, the show in itself was a great opportunity because it showed normal women, like we're not professional dancers. It showed us as normal women who are working moms, who have businesses, kids, and that we strive to achieve in the dance world. So to win at the end of the show and the last competition was great. And of course, it was even better having, I don't know if you saw the series, but having my husband surprise me there. It was a big, nice victory. So yeah, I loved it.
And so do you get used to the cameras? Like I've talked to a lot of people who have done these styles of shows and most of them say yes, but like, do you truly get used to it?
Okay, so it's really hard at the beginning because really the cameras for a reality show are completely in your life. They're in your house, they're in your bathtub, they're everywhere. You know, you do morning scenes in the afternoon. Sometimes you have to work with them. They see your kids and how you interact. And of course you try to be on your best behavior, but then you start forgetting there are cameras and you just become more natural. And I think at the beginning, it was really hard to adjust. And I was so drained because you have all these people around you. And then when they leave, it's like, oh my God, I could finally breathe. But then you start getting used to it and the crew becomes your friends. And then you just it becomes part of your reality, which is what it was. For Stas and I, while we were practicing having the cameras there, we were always on our best behavior at the beginning. And then you could see we started not to care so much that they were there and we really unleashed who we really are.
And I guess when you really do think about it, as much as it is super intrusive, having a camera around 24/7, and sure, you may get used to it, reality TV has launched careers. You can't argue that there's big entertainment value. You could even argue that there's cultural impact to what's going on. Let's not talk about possible ethical concerns or scripted content potentially harming participants' mental health and privacy. We talked about all that stuff with Sabrina in the full talk. Close to a half hour long, I think. You can hear it at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Megaphone accounts. You can see it at our YouTube channel. She talks about how Dancing with the Stars kind of spurred her on. We talked about aliens visiting Earth, career fulfillment, cooking and dinner parties, seeing New Kids on the Block in concert, and the fact that Bravo TV didn't renew for a second season.
Yeah, they did not renew Dancing Queens. Bravo decided to not do a second season. I think because Bravo's audience really loves the drama, they're Real Housewives women who really crave that. And this was more of a documentary about how we live our lives, how we are dancers. And, following our journey, some people loved it and some people found it boring. I really don't know why they decided on no second season. But I'm secretly praying when, something will come up for me somehow.
Yeah. And what do you think the best thing about being on that show was? And what's the worst thing?
So the best thing was showcasing our talents, showcasing how women at any age can really follow this dream or passion that they have. I think many people didn't realize that you could dance at any age and you can compete at any age. You definitely have to have a little bit of financial stability where you can hire a professional and dance with that professional. I think that was the best thing, and people got to see our world. The worst thing is that, you get really excited to be on a TV show and then it's over. For me, that was really hard because that was my dream always, to be on TV, and then it's gone. I think, the hard part is having everybody in your life, the cameramen, the crew, the producers, and you become friends and then they're gone. So that's hard to do. It's just an adjustment. But it's not the worst thing in life. So
yeah, kind of a bummer for Sabrina and the rest of the cast. Although with everything that's available today, do they really need to be on Bravo TV? Probably not, right? They could just release on YouTube, and the fans of that show will likely come and check it out there. I guess we'll see, what ends up happening with Dancing Queens. As we always do, we dug a little bit deeper into Sabrina's life, talking about ambition, her family, binge watching Beckham on Netflix. Superpowers came up. So did the music that was in her life while growing up.
Well, in the 80s, it was whatever. I'm the youngest of 5. Yeah. So, was it Duran Duran and Madonna and all those things growing up, and, Prince and George Michael and, so we were growing up on that, and I just listened to whatever they listened to. And now my girls are teaching me what's in, like all the TikTok songs and everything, that they're listening to. Yeah. Dirty songs.
Oh my God. In comparison to when we grew up, it's insane. It's insane.
I'm shocked. Like when I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do they not bleep this out? It's terrible.
Totally right.
And my daughter's 11 and she knows every word, and it's terrible. Wow. Yeah. The world has completely shifted.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
It's a different world. So crazy.
So crazy. So I'm worried for my kids growing up, but it's not as innocent as when I was growing up. So for sure.
No, I know.
Entertainment guest visits are powered by Sacred Meds, Canada's best craft cannabis and psilocybin dispensary. Visit sacredmeds.com.
Can you see control? Do we sleep through that winter when we lose hope? Can we keep holding on to something that we broke? Am I a saint or a sinner when I lose it all? Can we save all the memories to break the fall? I've been losing my head again. Now I'm starting over. We're strangers, it's coming down. Strangers, 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 starting over again.
There is a new song for Coster. It's called Strangers, if you hadn't picked that up. Coster in the thick of it in Toronto right now. If you check out his Instagram account, he's posting videos with Cone from Sum 41, who's helped Coster since the beginning. There's videos with Broken Love, who I think are probably the best rock band to come out of Canada since Nickelback. I love that Jay, or Coster, is in his element right now, kicking ass and taking names. And with any luck, we will see a Canadian tour probably next year with Coster. Looking forward to next week. You will hear from 12 guests and their first concert stories. Now, he's not a guest next week, but check out what former Megadeth bassist David Ellefson said about his first concert.
My very first concert was Kiss on the Rock and Roll Over tour, February 6, 1977 at the Met Center in Bloomington.
Remembers the date.
Well, and what's funny about it is I just saw, I've seen Kiss a bunch, and of course we, performed with them and done shows with them as well. But I went to go see the end of the road tour when they came through Phoenix early last year, I guess. And I bought a T-shirt, and it had the Kiss Destroyer. It looked like the T-shirt I bought at that show in 1977. I didn't know bootleggers, but I bought a shirt outside from a bootlegger, and it was a crappy shirt. You wash it once and it falls apart.
Yeah.
And I was that kid. I didn't know, And so I bought this shirt. And so at the end of the road tour, there's a shirt that kind of looked like that. It was the Destroyer cover, and on the back it had a bunch of tour dates. And I got home and I'm looking at the tour dates and I'm going, how come they don't have Glendale, Arizona on the dates? And I realized that these are the tour dates from the Destroyer into the Rock and Roll Over tour, because they were kind of seamless. I think it was kind of a seamless transition. They didn't change their costumes. And I remember Eddie Trunk and I were, beefing over, like, was that Destroyer? Was that Rock and Roll Over? Was that Love Gun? Because those three kind of ran together. And I love when you get with other Kiss nerds, because and we got people to do the same with Megadeth now. They nerd out over what show, what song list. And so I get it. I am part of one of those bands now. And so, again, kind of back to No Cover, it's just this whole circle, we're fanboying out and paying honor to, the idols and the heroes that got guitars in our hands and gave us a path forward. And then I, of course, meet Dave, and we find our own path forward, and we've now inspired a bunch of groups, that have come behind us. So it's, it's nice to just be part of this sort of cycle of life.
Yeah, next week is all about first concert stories. Mine was Dr. Hook in Kitimat, BC back in 1980. Cover of the Rolling Stone. I wish I had a cooler first concert, but it is what it is. Of course, wanted to give a big thanks to this week's guests as well. Danko Jones bassist JC. Dude, thank you for jumping a Zoom. Great to talk to you. After all these years, it had to be at least, 10 years, probably maybe even a dozen. MMA Power Hour host Colin Crandall. I love what you do, bud. Keep it up, and I'll keep chirping you off online. A Dancing Queens star, Sabrina Strasser, thank you again for being a guest. I hope that Bravo comes to their senses and renews for season 2. And that's going to do it for this one, episode 318. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you again for listening. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us and help us grow. We are part of the Realm.fm network based out of New York City. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Megaphone, YouTube. Comment and rate the podcast. It helps out big time. Search out through Toddcast Podcast. Huge thanks to all of our excellent sponsors. You can find links to all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you and your business would like to sponsor the podcast, you know you can for as little as $10 a day. It's cheap. Contact info is at the homepage. And if you help us find a sponsor, keep this in mind, we'll give you a commission. Make a little side hustle, side scratch, listening to the podcast. Joe Rogan, over to you. It's your move. Till next time. Joe will never do that. Until next time, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard. Most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast Podcast, powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, dedicated to helping you find the best mortgage rates. Available 7 days a week at citywidemortgage.ca.
Talmor, Sheshin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
The thing that I fought tooth and nail to bring my son into is Dungeons and Dragons. That is the ultimate solution to parenthood.
I'm Alexis Ohanian. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. I talked to Rainn Wilson. I wanted to learn more about Rainn's advice to play D&D with your kids. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.